The American Civil War, a time in which a young nation tested its newfound power against itself. It was a period in history looked at with more reverence than almost any other. It was also the beginning of an industrial revolution, a revolution which tore the industrial North from the agricultural South. It was a war more brutal than anything else in American history to date, with casualty counts in a single battle higher than in a full-out modern war. While some say the war was fought for states' rights, the war in reality was fought and financed by slave owners in the South to try to maintain the ways of business for the Confederacy. While many say the South lost simply because of its lack of manpower or its poverty or something else, we will dive into the main causes for the South losing the war, and those reasons, we will see, all stem from economic issues associated with the Union's Anaconda Plan. The date is April 12th. The South has begun the war by engaging in a no-casualty confrontment with the North, the shelling Fort Sumter. The Union leadership knew the South had great capabilities in its cotton industry, and now needed a plan to block that from reaching Europe, where the buyers for the cotton were waiting, and the South could make money. The South was dependent on outside sources for trade, and was everyone at the time essentially was. The South exported more cotton than any other. However, its large output was meaningless if they couldn't deliver their goods to the outside markets. And the North, moreover, knew this, so they quickly developed the Anaconda Plan. The plan, by and large, was simple: strangle the South's trade to make them economically weak, and then initiate an invasion from the Mississippi to take their last great waterway. Victory was expected very soon, but the South held on for a period of time before it understood that it needed to augment its business with industry. The South wished to save itself with a very futile attempt at industry. Many new factories were built, but they weren't enough to stop the effect of the blockade. Blockade runners were developed as an attempt to bypass the blockade itself, but they could only handle small cargoes, and didn't have the guarantee of arriving at port again, and therefore had a small, but yet kind of important, impact. Projects started to try to develop a new sort of naval fighting craft, but these, such as the H.M. Hunley, were far before their time. With Southern trade a shadow of its former self, the South simply couldn't afford much for its troops. Looking at their lack of a true uniform, ranging everything from gray to butternut to red to blue to white, the inability to import many modern weapons from the troops, some using their grandfathers' weapons used in the American Revolution, while others in the North, on par, used Henry rifles and newfound Burnside guns to take out their opposition. And the simple fact that they couldn't provide the most basic commodity of food to their troops shows us how they were struggling. The Anaconda Plan, by and large, did work. In the South, without as much industry as the North, began to fall behind. Around 1863 is generally marked as when the South began losing the Civil War. Because the South lacked industry, it could not furnish its troops with real fighting materials, and effectively lost the war because of the lack of a solid industrial base and economic trading dependence upon Europe. The South simply lost the war because of the Union's Anaconda Plan. By strangling the South out of what they had, their trade, their resources, their capabilities, and cotton exports, which were quintessential and important to their economy, the North effectively won themselves the war by utilizing the Anaconda Plan to its fullest potential, and showing the South that rebellion and separating from the Union as a whole was by and large a bad idea, and that what they should have done is stay with the Union. Because the Anaconda Plan, the South eventually saw the error of their ways, that without the European countries to augment their lack of trade with the North, they simply could not continue a war, and thus lost the war, the Civil War, because of their inability to trade.
So come on boys, no time to nap. Come on boys, let lift your cap. Come on boys, give a rebel yell. Send them Yankees straight to hell.